Hi, when did you realise that you couldn't drink like anybody else? Basically means why or when did you feel that you could not be a normal drinker again, i.e. a social drinker? Because unbeknown to me, years later I found out that people knew when in my teens that I was a little bit different. Sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? But I saw a taxi driver about a year ago in my hometown called James. And he said, when you were 18, 19, you could drink a lot more than the adults that used to ferry around in the taxi. It surprised me really. And he gave me a few examples of when I'd been to certain places and been on the booze all day and all that sort of thing. I didn't realise how much I could actually drink, or I didn't think I was a problem drinker then, but obviously I was as a young man. So when I was 21, I joined the police service, and I'd been a steady drinker from the age of about 14, 15. Not every night, but weekends were quite busy, should we say. I played in the band, I played a bit of sport, and we used to go on the drink. I mixed with some older guys who could get served, no problem. When I joined the police, there were some very, some say, seasoned drinkers there. And in order to fit in, I drank like them, and often could drink more than them, which is not a badge of honour. It was I suppose, a state that I was in where my tolerance was higher than most. But I quite enjoyed it, and I enjoyed part of the team, the group, the it group, you know, the eight-faced people who were running the show. Because in any big organisation, there's a bit of a canteen culture where there's a lot of people who will clan together, as it were, and go on the booze. And I became one of the main instigators of that, which is not a good thing really, but I enjoyed the sort of accolade, I suppose. So at that point, I thought I can drink more than most of these people. I didn't think it was a problem then. But as I got a little bit older, I realised I was getting a few hangovers and that sort of thing. And when I would go on holiday, I'd feel like it was a bit of the hair of the dog, just to get me over the withdrawal. Because my state, as I say, when I've been on the booze, went from having a bit of a buzz to having a hangover very quickly to withdrawal. And when you get to withdrawal stage, you should really be putting the brakes on this, because most people can have a drink now and again, but they're not drinking every day. And my issues arose because I was drinking regularly, if not heavily, every day. So I always had something in my system. And you've got to allow your liver to cleanse a bit and your whole body to recover. When you're working long hours, you have a few domestic issues, you're travelling a lot, and you've got a stressful job. All those things dovetail in together to cause an extreme problem, and you never really rest, you never recover from it. That's what I knew. I think I knew most of my life that I was drinking too much. In fact, when I was 15, I came back from school, and my mother at the time didn't tell my dad. I just found this bin liner full of empty cans of lager and said, have you got a drink problem? I sort of laughed it off, said, no, it's just one of the guys going to practice with the band and all that. But I think she knew then I was going to be a drinker. However, it was sort of let slide. Everyone gets on with their own life, and when I joined the police, I wasn't at home, was I? I could sort of do what I wanted then. But it became reliant on it, just as a bit of a social club, really, after work. Some people would go home and do a bit of DIY, a bit of gardening. I never did any of that. My relaxed time was always just going on the booze, and on days off it was even worse. And I realised then I couldn't drink like other people. Let's say social drinkers. So I sort of got together with people, other heavy drinkers, if that makes sense. There's birds of a feather flock together, don't they? We used to meet in the West End sometimes and go on benders really all day, 11 o'clock in the morning. Go to the police club. I remember one particular day, I think it was my 40th birthday, or around that time, I met a couple of guys in the West End. One was a sergeant like me, and the other was a PC. He was originally from Newcastle, actually. Sadly died recently. And we met in the police club at 11 o'clock. Because in those days, all police stations had a club which served subsidised beer, would you believe? So I went to the police club at 11 o'clock. Had 2 or 3 drinks in there, probably more than that actually. And then had a few down Soho area. And one of the guys knew the manager of a pub in the city of London, near the Bank of England. There was a pub called the Golden Fleece, EC4. The place was called Cheapside, not far from St Paul's. So we sat in there for a while. And the pubs used to close at 3 o'clock then. It was like 11 till 3 and then 5 till 11. But he knew this manager, so we sat in the back room of the pub when it was closed and had some more drinks. Then we headed back to the West End, and then I drank some more, obviously. A little bite to eat, and kept on, and then we finished off in the police club again till 11 o'clock at night, so it was 12 hours full drinking session. So I thought about getting home. But by the time I drank so much, I thought I can't bother to go home now. Ended up in some club, and then started to drink more, a place called Hombres, or Oxford Street. If you know London, then you'll know Hombres. And it was a bouncing place, very busy, but it was cheap booze, that's why we went there. And then, from then, we drank till about 3 o'clock in the morning, and then one of the guys had his own place in Soho, went back there and drank again, and drank all night. So we drank from 11 a.m. the previous day till 6 the next day, which is crazy amount of time, isn't it? That's 24, 30 odd hours on the booze. And I realised then I was in trouble, really. But I didn't do much about it because I thought I'll be all right. And I thought it was sort of normal life then. In the 80s and 90s in London, especially, it was accepted and it was sort of expected of you to be a heavy drinker. If that makes sense, to fit in. It went from bad to worse, and I eventually retired, tried to get off the booze, and had seizures. Eventually got off it for a couple of years, and then relapsed. And I thought, well, I can be a social drinker again now. Then that's the trap. You feel as if you're cured. You feel that you can actually have a social drink, have a 1 or 2 a week, but that never happens if you're an alcoholic or you're dependent on alcohol. Because what's going to happen is your mind sort of more or less tricks you in the back into thinking you can drink again, but you can't. Once you're alcohol dependent and it's got you, then you've got an issue for life, and you can't go back and have 1 or 2 on a Saturday like the few people that do that. You know, a lot of people can just drink and socially and be fine, but once you're alcohol dependent, that's you have to stop. There's no other way that you're going to survive. Very few people are alcohol dependent live past the age of 50 and have any quality of life. You've got to stop it, and if you can't stop it, then you will die early. It's as simple as that. There's nobody that I know who's alcohol dependent who looks well, lives a decent life. They're all struggling in life, disabled by it, or they're sitting in the pub all day, they're relying on it. The health is just going down faster than snow for diet, really, getting worse and worse, or more medication. Most are blood pressure pills, because obviously it affects the liver, affects the blood pressure. People get strokes, pancreatitis. You look at the 7 types of cancer, it's all bad. Alcohol's got nothing good going for it. So in order to get off, you have to stay off. It's not, I'm going to be off for 3 weeks, that's not coming off booze. It's a question of staying off for life, which is a big emotional hit. You've got to try and break it down into days, weeks. So I'm not going to have a drink today, and give yourself a pat on the back, really. Because you cannot become a social drinker once you're dependent. So if you want to get some help with that, I do a one-to-one mentoring course. The link's in the description of this video. I've got an ebook out as well, and I do lives at night, 9 o'clock. There's a lot of people on there who are very experienced with the bad and the good side of alcohol, really, in that we all think we'll have a great time when we're young, but it will catch up with you in the end. It'll either disable you, or steal your quality of life, or in the end it will kill you early. It's a bit of a grim subject, but unless you can recognise and change your lifestyle, change the way you think, then you won't last long. And if you do last long, you're going to end up in a pretty bad state. Okay, I'll speak to you soon, and take it easy.